Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, for World Humanitarian Day, there are calls for more protections for aid workers operating on the continent and beyond. Too many have lost their lives whilst trying to look after victims of conflict in countries like Sudan and South Sudan. Also, Benins' push to spruce up its market scene stirs up some mixed feelings for vendors and shoppers. The sprawling Tokpa market in central Cotonou's West Africa's biggest open-air shopping experience, but is also a fire hazard. But sellers are still reluctant to leave. And the waxing of Wolof. It's spoken by most Senegalese, even though French is officially the national language, but its prominence is slowly waning as more people demand content written in the language of their own forefathers. Now, for World Humanitarian Day on Monday, the United Nations released its annual stats for the number of humanitarian workers killed on the job. And 2023 has broken all records, 280 having lost their lives worldwide. Most of them, 163, were killed in Gaza. But the nations of South Sudan and Sudan also appear on this grim podium. Our regional correspondent Bastien Renouy reports from Kenya.
5 of the 10 most dangerous countries for humanitarians are in Africa, and on the continent, South Sudan is the most dangerous country. It's ranked second globally. In 2023, 34 humanitarian workers were killed. Most of them were South Sudanese, and most of them were directly targeted. Let's take the example of what happened on the 23rd of September 2023. 3 trucks were coming back to Juba after delivering assistance to children. They were attacked. 2 of the 3 truck drivers were killed. The remaining one was severely injured, and the trucks were burnt without any reason. And that's directly impacting the population. 9 million people, 3/4 of the population, need assistance at the moment in South Sudan. Let's also mention Sudan. It's ranked third globally. In 2023, 25 people were killed, most of them after the beginning of the war in April. And in Sudan, they are also directly targeted. Dozens of warehouses belonging to NGOs were looted. Hundreds of cars belonging to international organizations were stolen. And that's really preventing the delivery of aid. According to Joyce Msuya, she is the United Nations Acting Undersecretary for Humanitarian Affairs. She says that the normalizations of violence against aid workers and the lack of accountability are unacceptable and unconscionable. And she has a good reason to be worried. 2024 could be worse than 2023. So far, at least 172 aid workers have been killed globally.
Now, Ghana's poised to launch its first genetically modified or GMO crop for cultivation. But even after 12 years of research, vigorous public debate about the move continues. Some farmers who've lost up to 80% of their crops of cowpea to pests in the past are excited about the introduction of a strain of the legume engineered to resist the insects that can decimate yields. But the shift could have a potentially big impact on African food security. However, concerns about the risks of GMO crops and the technology used to create them also remain. Justice Baidu talks us through.
Inside the Savannah Agricultural Institute, SARI, scientists are hard at work in the final stages of what could revolutionize the farming of cowpea, one of Ghana's most popular staples. Current varieties of the crop usually get eaten by pests.
One of the pests that is a major contributor to the excessive use of insecticides is the one we call the legume pod borer, scientifically known as Maruca vitrata, which attacks the crop at the flowering stage and also when the pods are on. After screening all those over 15,000 cowpea materials, we couldn't identify anyone within what we call the cowpea germplasm that could offer that resistance. So we had to opt for the genetic modification approach.
Ghana's cowpea farmers lose more than half of their yearly harvest as a result of challenges with seeds, threatening food security. This new variety could be a game changer for farmers of the crop, like Hakim, who is reeling from losses of his cowpea farm from the previous season.
Last year, we farmed about 6 acres, and the 6 acres, we were even expecting to get like 20 bags, but because of the insects, we get like 10.
In May 2024, Ghana's High Court threw out a case by activists against the introduction of GMO crops in the country. Some of them maintain the variety poses risk to farmers.
The reason why they think this is good is because it's going to reduce the applications of dangerous chemicals. But the truth is happening in other countries. You go to Argentina, see where their lands have been burnt by glyphosate. The pink bollworm in India is resistant to GM cotton. So we don't believe that because they've genetically modified this cowpea, the Maruca pest is going to stay off the cowpea forever.
Sari has now started the process of marketing the seeds commercially to farmers.
In southern Benin, the hugely popular Dan Tokpa market, one of the biggest open-air markets in the region, is facing closure. Since June, several new, more modern markets have been opened up across the city of Cotonou. And authorities have been encouraging traders to make the shift from Dan Tokpa, warning that the site is a fire hazard and security risk. But the transition's not proving to be easy, as Emmanuel Soji tells us.
Dontokba has been a bustling trade hub for around 35,000 vendors in Cotonou. This historic site, roughly the size of 25 football fields, is facing closure for security reasons, forcing shopkeepers to relocate. Since its opening, Dontokba has experienced about 20 destructive fires. One seller, Jose Sude, who has been in the woven fabric business for 2 decades, shares her concerns.
Westerners come here, as do Nigerians, Burkinabes, Congolese, Senegalese. I've customers from all over. When we're forced out of this market, where will the customers go? Where will they find us?
The upcoming closure of Dontokba will force shops to relocate to different sites based on their trade. But sellers and customers are worried about losing the market's central location and easy access.
We still don't know where we'll go. We don't have enough money to look into getting a spot in the new markets yet. If we get moved, on top of what we already pay for transport, it's going to be tough.
We currently spend 100 francs to get to the market. It could go up to 1,000 francs. This will definitely impact everyone.
In response to the controversy surrounding the market's closure, the president of the Women and Artisans Group of the Markets of Benin, Aimé Awisu, is raising awareness among female traders about the changes coming their way.
Today the market has expanded. It's entered into homes. We can't even identify its boundaries. Our concern today is the proper management of this relocation, considering how many of us there are. How to ensure that it accommodates so many people so that everyone finds a place there. That's the fundamental concern in our association.
Although no demolition date has been set yet, closing the market feels like the end of an era and the loss of a place deeply rooted in Vodun culture. In preparation for the transition, about 20 new markets have already been built to replace Dontokba, designed to meet international health and hygiene standards.
Well, a linguistic shift is underway in Senegal. Wolof is spoken by 80% of the population and has progressively overtaken French, the country's official language, as the dominant language of communication. Private Wolof classes have flourished even as the publishing sector races to meet growing demand for books and other content written in local languages for local readers. Our team reports.
Amina grew up in Europe but is trying to start a new life in Senegal, the land of her ancestors. Every week, the 24-year-old takes Wolof classes online at this Dakar cafe.
It's a language that you need to master in order to integrate in social spaces, to live well, to be able to communicate with people and understand the culture and so on.
Recently, new publishing houses that cater to a local readership have sprung up in Senegal. Ejo is among them, publishing in Wolof and a dozen other local languages.
A publishing house should reflect the language spoken by the population. And the language spoken by the population here is in French. French is part of our history, but we need to claim ownership of our own language before expanding into others.
Shifts are also happening in education. Besides French, the government wants local languages to also be systematically taught in schools by 2029, as research suggests that this could help pupils do better across the curriculum.
When children learn their mother tongue, they're more likely to succeed in school. They participate much more in class, they're more interested, they do better, and the success rate is visibly higher.
A pilot phase was introduced in 2018. Education authorities are developing linguistic maps to adapt teaching to reflect the needs of each part of the country.
We have some challenges. One is teacher training. Another is whether it will be possible to produce enough teaching materials, enough textbooks for each national language. We have 20 codified languages, which is a lot.
Things are changing in the digital space too. Wolof has been available on Google Translate since July, alongside some 30 other African languages.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa for now. Thanks for joining us, though, and do so again if you can. Till then, take care.